Welcome to the classroom. This is your lesson board. This is your lesson stick. This is your lesson teacher. Get it? Got it? Good. Today we're going to be focusing on your protein. Number 1, why your protein is important. Number 2, how to calculate your protein targets. Number 3, how to increase your protein, because I know that is a massive question and it is also a massive struggle. So we're going to put emphasis on that. Number 4, examples of protein. Now, I'm not going to rip out any steak out of my pocket or protein bars out of my pocket or chickpeas out of wherever. No. And number 5, very importantly, what do you do if you're not hitting your protein targets? Everything on that board behind me is of utmost importance. So don't skip past this video. Watch it, especially if you are serious about this fat loss expedition thing. Okay, cool. Let's go. Number 1, why is protein so important when it comes to fat loss? Now, if you're a bodybuilder and you're watching this, or you're competing in a bikini show, or whatever the case is, and obviously this video is not for you, I think that goes without saying. If you are just starting your fat loss expedition, then this is the video for you. We're going to focus on the basics and break it down. Cool. From a fat loss perspective, which is why I think most of you, majority of you, all of you are watching this video, your protein is important to help keep you fuller for longer, which is going to help you adhere to your calories. Number 2, how do you calculate your protein targets? Take your body weight in kilograms, multiply it by a minimum of 1.5. Boom, Bob's your uncle, you've got your protein target. Now my maths is super shit, so I need to use a calculator. But like my mom always said to me, Mandy, you've got an amazing personality. Both my brothers are engineers, by the way. Mathematics, they're strong points. Obviously, I got the personality in the family. But anyway, different story for a different day. Let's say I weigh 70 kilograms. 70 times 1.5. 105 grams of protein per day. That would be my entry-level target. You can push it all the way up to 2 grams of protein per day per kilogram of body weight. So then I would say, cool, my protein target is about 105 grams per day, all the way up to about 140 grams per day. Give myself a range target. You see, you can throw away a calculator, but you can't throw away an amazing personality. All right, next question, Mandy, fuck it. How to increase your protein. Now, this is where the struggle comes in. What I see most people doing is looking for 50 million different protein snacks throughout the day. I'm going to give you a very good piece of advice here. When you're looking at increasing your protein, number 1, focus on the protein source that you are already eating, that you are already making. Increase that. If you're having 1 can of tuna, have 1.5. If you're having 1 chicken breast, have 2 chicken breasts. Immediately, you're increasing that protein of that meal without having to look for hundreds of different snacks. How cool is this light? Before I forget, 100 grams of steak, slab of steak, 100 grams of it does not equate to 100 grams of protein. The way you'll learn about what foods contain what protein, log your foods on a calorie tracking app like MyFitnessPal. It will immediately tell you how much protein is in 100 grams of steak. Boom, there you have the answer. Another question I get, is my protein target per meal or per day? It is per day. So mine would be around 105 to 140 grams of protein per day, not per meal. Sorted. Back to increasing your protein. So number 1 was make protein your focal point. Number 2, there's going to have to be a certain level of planning. You cannot just wing the shit. Pull out your food tracking app, plan your foods in advance. Number 1, like I said, make protein the focal point. What's that, Mandy? I'm typing my protein in for my lunch. Okay, cool. I see it comes to X amount of calories. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to build the rest of the meal around that protein. But you can only do that if you plan and not wing. Repeat after me, plan, not wing. Examples of protein. Wait, before I go to examples of protein, another question I get asked a lot of the times is, how do I increase my protein without going over my calorie goals for the day? Simple. Again, we revert back to making protein the focal point, and then number 2, planning. So once you've now logged that protein, you'll see how many calories you have left for your veggies and for your carbohydrates. Boom, add them on the plate, try and stay within calorie range. When you increase your protein, it goes without saying that you're going to increase your calories because you're increasing food that you're going to be consuming. So out of your other macronutrients, your fats and your carbohydrates, one of them are going to have to give. Most of the time, it's because the percentage of carbohydrates that you are consuming is quite high. So when you increase your protein, you're going to have to look at reducing either your carbohydrates or your fats. Now, when it comes to your protein examples, which is number 4 on the board behind me that you can't see right now, if you're eating meat-based protein sources, ideally you want to look for something leaner. 100 grams of lamb chops versus 100 grams of chicken. The chicken is going to contain fewer calories because there's not as much fat on that source of protein. So your basic examples for your meat sources would be something like ground beef, sausage, pork, steak, chicken, fish, turkey, ostrich, whatever. When it comes to convenience, you can look at something like a protein bar, a whey protein powder. Very convenient to increase the protein that you are consuming, but it can be quite costly. And a lot of the times protein shakes don't necessarily keep you as full as what food sources of protein would. And then obviously if you don't eat meat, your plant-based protein sources, it is going to be a lot more difficult to increase your protein. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about every single little piece of food that has got X amount of protein in. And the reason for that is because I'm a good teacher. And you know what good teachers do? They give their students homework. So your homework is to go and research protein sources. The only way you are going to learn is if you actively research protein sources. And you're like, that looks nice. Let me incorporate that into the plan. So that is your homework for this video. And I know it's like, we don't want to do homework, but that is how you learn. Go onto Google. I know this isn't Google. Again, I know it's a calculator. And Google foods high in protein. And then Google will give you everything. And then you can actively start adding 1 or 2 of these food sources and see what works for you and your calories. The last point on my teacher's board behind me, and just before anyone gets confused, I'm not a qualified teacher. My mom is, so maybe that counts as something. What if you can't hit your protein targets? You actively start trying to increase it. Look at where you're currently at and gradually just start incorporating more protein. The goal here isn't to get everything right overnight. The goal is to get comfortable with making more nutrient-dense food choices on a consistent basis. Once you're comfortable with that, then you say, cool, let's look at increasing the protein that you are consuming. But if you can't hit your protein target straight from the word go, it's not a major train smash because fat loss can take place without you actively hitting those protein targets every single day. I'm really starting to sweat now because it's very hot in here and I had to close all the windows because of the tractor outside. So that's pretty much all that I've got for you today on this topic of protein. I'm going to link an episode that I did on my podcast, the Mandy Meyer Podcast, in the caption below so that you can go and further listen to the information that I have about protein.